Yeah, so I think that started recording now. So yeah, so to begin with, just wanted to uh, have like an interactive activity to begin with to get everyone involved. So I'd just like to ask if you could write in the chat box, just a couple of words, nothing too much, just how stress makes you feel. Yeah, just anything. For example, you might feel burnt out, you might feel tired, you might feel irritable. This is just to get an understanding into how stress makes us feel. I can see some words. I can see makes my heart beat faster, overwhelmed, tired, restless, angry, trapped, panicky, upset, confused, tired, overwhelmed, irritable, anxious. Yeah, it's yeah, there's definitely like similarities here. So everybody's sort of experiencing the same sort of thing, feeling overwhelmed. Yeah, I think yeah, we're all sort of using the same sort of words. We all sort of feel the same. We all have the sort of same experience with stress and how it makes us feel confused. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, so we sort of just wanted to like start off by thinking about how we feel before we start getting into stress and how we can manage it and how we can address those feelings. So yeah, so we can now move on to what stress is. Now we've understood how it makes us feel, we can address what it actually is and get a better understanding of it so we can address it. Um, so, the World Health Organization defines stress as a state of worry or mental tension caused by a difficult situation. Um, it's a natural human response that prompts us to address challenges in our lives, and it's something that all of us experience daily. Um, and when we encounter stress, our body produces hormones that trigger the fight or flight response. And this activates our immune system and it helps us to respond to dangerous situations and also to help us get tasks done. Even though, like, a lot of the words we used to describe how it makes us feel definitely were like more negative, stress isn't always necessarily a bad thing. So when we're stressed, our body releases adrenaline and cortisol, which helps gives us a boost of energy and motivation. Um, so a little bit of stress is a good thing. Without it, we wouldn't be able to perform our daily activities, such as getting our work done, meeting all our deadlines, and staying focused on our work. And without stress, mankind wouldn't have survived beyond like caveman because the flight or flight response triggered our caveman ancestors to respond to danger. But, as we've mentioned, like when we discussed how it makes us feel, when we have too much stress, it can have negative consequences. Um, so now we'll look at how it can affect us. So, too much stress can have a negative impact on our health. So, physically, stress can increase tiredness um, and also cause sleeping difficulties. It can cause headaches, stomach pain, skin problems, hair loss. It can affect our food consumption, so it can result in a loss of appetite, and it can also result in increased hunger, which typically tends to be unhealthy foods. Mentally, it can cause or exacerbate mental health problems such as anxiety or depression. It can also lead to unhealthy coping strategies such as smoking, alcohol, and drug use. And emotionally, it can cause us to feel overwhelmed or angry or irritable or tense or burnt out, which is um, similar to the words that we mentioned before. And it can cause us to isolate ourselves from our friends and family. Um, so now we're going to look at identifying our stress triggers. So another interactive task, if you could have a think about what it is that stresses you, and if you could write it in the chat box again, you can write your top three or you can just write one. Um, whatever it is that causes you to feel stressed and overwhelmed. So examples could include like stress around money, or meeting deadlines, or balancing work-life balance. Long to-do lists, yeah, that can be stressful if you've got a lot of work to complete. Work, yeah, definitely. Complex tasks and deadlines, work-life balance, yeah. Not knowing things, then finding out after, yeah, definitely. These are some good ones. Deadlines, my son not sleeping mess, work life, work pressures, unclear tasks, people wearing too many hats, work, not being given clear information to do a job, definitely. Yeah, these are all some really, really good ones for identifying what stresses us out. Yeah. Um, so the reason why I've asked you to identify what's stressed you out is because that's a really good way to start with trying to actually deal with stress. I think there's some more inconsistent instructions from management. Yeah, definitely. Dealing with a family crisis, being avoided and judged. Yeah, these are all ones that all of us can relate to. Um, so yeah, so I asked us to all identify what stresses us out because that's the first step to managing stress and identifying what's causing it. This way, you can address the root issue and develop a plan to decrease your stress levels and also help support others and notice what's triggering stress in other people around us. A really good place to start with this is doing the NHS Mind Plan quiz. So this is just a really short quiz. You have 5 questions. It asks about your mood, how well you sleep, how anxious you're feeling, how stressed you feel, and also any other concerns you might have. And then you're given a plan to help address those issues, and you can have it emailed to you. And it's just a good place to start to sort of get like a general guidance on how to deal with anxiety and stress. Um, Also, clearing your mind is a good way to help deal with stress. So, like writing down your stresses so they're visually in front of you can help manage anxiety. I know we had somebody say long to do lists can stress you out. So, I'd recommend trying to keep it um, short and sort of focusing on the tasks that you can get done within that day. So, starting off with like a short to do list that can help if you're feeling overwhelmed with tasks and you want to write it down in front of you. Um, if you've got lots to do and you just want to find somewhere to start, if you make the list too long, it can actually have the reverse effect and stress you out even more if you've got so much to do. So I'd be conscious with to-do lists and making sure that they're not too overwhelming for you. Um, there's also brain dumping, which is a technique where you spend 5 to 10 minutes writing down everything that's going on within your mind. So if you're really stressed, um, brain dumping is just like free flow writing where you just write down everything. There's no guidance or structure to this. It's literally just getting everything out on paper. You don't pause for spelling or grammar. You sort of just get everything out, and then that way it's on paper in front of you, and it kind of helps to clear your mind. Journaling is also something else you can do, and that's the practice of um, regularly writing down your thoughts, feelings, experiences, and reflections. This is different to brain dumping, where there's prompts. So you might start off with, what do I want to focus on today? What am I grateful for today? How do I typically respond to stress? And that guides your writing. Um, and it's typically done with like in with practicing gratitude as well. With both brain dumping and journaling, it's important to acknowledge like any negative feelings you have, but not focus solely on them. Otherwise, that can sort of make you even more stressed. So I'd recommend with both trying to involve a little bit of gratitude within your writing as well. That can help. So stress management techniques. So now we're going to discuss some of the techniques that can help reduce stress and manage it well. Um, so exercise is a good one. Of course, exercise in itself will not remove your stress, but it can help to manage the effects of it by producing endorphins that can boost our mood and improve our physical and mental health. You can do any exercise that works best for you. That could be swimming or running or bike riding or yoga. But walking is the one that's usually discussed most just because it's the easiest form of exercise that we can incorporate into our daily lives. So research has shown that walking just for 30 minutes within a green space can significantly improve well-being and reduce feelings of sadness and anxiety. And even walking for 10 minutes combined with meditation, so focusing on breathing, has been shown to improve well-being. Of course, going on a walk isn't going to reduce your stress, especially if whilst you're walking, you're just thinking about everything you're stressed about. So I've included some tips to help stay present whilst walking. So that's engaging your senses, taking notice of any sights, smells, and textures around you whilst you're out on a walk. Where possible, try to walk in like green spaces because being in nature is best for us mentally. When you're on your walk as well, maybe try pick one thing to focus on and keep count of that. So if you pick one colour and then count how often you see that colour, that can help you stay in that present moment and not think about everything you're currently stressing about. Also, focusing on your breathing technique is good. So maybe try and box breathing, which is where you breathe in for 4 seconds and then breathe out for 4 seconds and repeat that. Um, and then another stress management technique is maintaining healthy habits. So a good healthy habit to maintain is prioritizing a good sleep routine. This is hard to do when you're stressed because usually when you're stressed, you might find yourself lying awake at night worrying about what it is that's stressing you. However, a lack of sleep can result in stress hormones like cortisol, which can make things worse for you and also result in weight gain and cardiovascular problems. So here is just some tips to try and help your sleep and maintain a good sleep routine. So that's going to bed and waking up at the same time, exercising during the day, not too close to bedtime, but enough time within the day that it makes you tired at night, so you're more likely to get better sleep. Also reducing screen time before going to bed and creating a good environment to sleep in, and also making sure you relax before bed. So listening to white noise or like calming music, or doing some meditation on the Headspace app or some light reading before bed can all be helpful to try and get a good sleep. Another healthy habit is to try and limit your screen time in general. So if you're going through a stressful time and you are on social media and maybe you see everybody else appearing to have a great time, that can make you feel worse. If you're watching the news often and there's a lot of negative things, that can stress you out even more. And also just doom scrolling in general can increase stress and affect your self-esteem. And it can also have physical effects such as eye strain and back pain, and mental health effects such as anxiety and depression. So some tips are to limit screen time are just turning off unnecessary notifications. This is especially the case with work. So turning off work emails and Teams notifications on your phone so you can have like a good work-life balance, especially with working from home and trying to keep work and home life separate. being mindful of your content consumption, so limiting social media or news exposure if you find that that has been having an impact on your stress, and also having reducing your digital consumption. So if you limit social media use to 30 minutes a day, that's been shown to have beneficial effects. However, a full digital detox has been found to have significant effect in reducing depression, but it has no statistical effects concerning well-being and life satisfaction and stress. So it's about finding what works well for you, and managing social media and screen time usage in a way that works for you best. And another healthy habit is incorporating mindfulness and self-care. So essentially making the time to do the things that you enjoy. So meditation's good for reducing stress. You can do that by following meditation videos. The Headspace app is really good for that. Focus on your breathing and also your surroundings. Make time to engage in your hobbies and your interests and the things that you enjoy. Make the time to socialise with family and friends. Make sure you set personal and work boundaries. Making sure you say no to things when there's too much work for you to deal with. Speaking to colleagues or managers if there's too much, or if there's not clarity on the work that needs to be done. Having good communication in that sense. Making sure you stay hydrated and eat a healthy diet, because research has found that high intake of ultra processed foods resulted in an increase in psychological distress compared to those who had lower intake of high processed food. That is hard to do because when you're stressed, you're more likely to gravitate towards unhealthy foods, but it's important to try and stay healthy where possible. And also listening to uplifting music, podcasts, reading, essentially just taking the time to do things that make you happy and bring you joy, especially when you're stressed. And here are some resources for financial management, as that's something that can cause intense stress problems. So there's the mental health and money advice website, and on there you have the budget planner and debt health check. You also have guidance on welfare benefits and how you can access benefits that you're entitled to. There's tips and advice for managing money in general, and there's also the money saving expert website. On there, there's a free budgeting spreadsheet to help manage your income, and there's also the chance to sign up for weekly emails to receive information regarding like pensions and savings account and money advice in general. So that's a really good resource to use to better manage money. Yeah, and I think the resources have been sent into the chat for everybody to access. I'll just talk through them. So there's the NHS Wellbeing Quiz. There's also the World Health Organization Stress Management Guide that has some good advice on there. There's the Headspace app. That's really good for meditation. There's the NHS Guide to Meditation. There's some resources from the Stress Management Society. They've got some like a lot of resources. They're a really good place to look at. And there's also the money management advice links, and there's also the NHS guidance for stress management. And this is just a reminder that it's important to be kind to yourself, and some stressful situations are just out of your control. And it's important to remember that, because there's no point working yourself up over some things that you can't change. And also the techniques that we've discussed in this presentation, they're going to take a while to see an impact. They're not just going to deal with your stress overnight. So it will take some time to see the positive impact. It's not like you're going to go on one walk and then all of a sudden all your stress has gone away. It's something that we have to implement into our lives daily. But yeah, we are going to share the presentation and the resources after, so don't worry about that. But yeah, so we've got another interactive Q&A discussion. So yeah, we just wanted to let people feel free to write in the chat what stress management techniques work for you. Have you used any that we've discussed? And how have they gone for you? Are there any other techniques that we haven't discussed that you'd like to write about and let other people know? Daily exercise is a must for me to reduce stress. Yeah, definitely. I always find trying to go on a walk, especially when working from home, is important just to get outside and away from the laptop. Communication to someone you trust, yeah, definitely. Talking about your stress with somebody else can always help. I used a Calm app and have sound baths, particularly outside, to be really helpful. Yeah, definitely. Reading instead of doom scrolling before bed. Yeah, yeah, that's definitely true. I often find that like doom scrolling tends to take place before bed, so trying to like keep your phone away from you before you go to bed is a good thing in trying to do reading instead. Positive framing about situations that cause stress. Yeah, trying to like keep a positive mindset. A notepad and pen by bed so I can jot things down that are stopping me from sleeping. Yeah, that's really good to get the stressful thoughts out of your mind before you go to bed. That's a really good technique. I do knitting and crochet. Yeah, doing anything sort of arts based that can take your mind off things. Painting as well. Yeah, that's really good. Any others? Or journaling helps me stay a bit grounded and view myself and what's going on inside. Yeah, yeah. Journaling is really good at being reflective and self-aware, and yeah, definitely some self-care time. Yeah, of course, making time to do the things you enjoy. Um, Feel free to write anything more in the chat if there's any questions or anything. Um, but we do challenge you to take on one of these stress management tips and try to apply them to your week. Find thinking about one thing good every day helps. Yeah, that's definitely good. Thinking about one positive thing or one thing to be grateful for is definitely good. And recognizing what is not in my control and getting caught up in that. But it's difficult when things are not in your control, affect your life and stress levels. Yeah, definitely. I think being reflective, being kind to yourself, and understanding some things are just completely out of your control, and having that that freeing feeling that some things are just not worth stressing about because there's nothing you can do. Trying to get as much sleep as possible. This is my biggest hurdle currently. Yeah, that is challenging. Um, but yeah, I definitely would recommend trying to do meditation or something. I think the Headspace app is really good for that before bed. To try and clear your mind. Those are the references from today, but if anybody has any questions or anything in the chat, please feel free. I think I need to work on my wind down time before bed. Yeah, definitely. Definitely recommend the Headspace app. Maybe writing down anything that's stressing you out before bed, but making sure to focus on positives. I think that's a good place to start. But yeah, and like checking out all the resources we're sending over. I think, yeah. So yeah, that was everything in the presentation. Finished a little bit early. But if anybody wants to take their mics off to ask anything or write anything in the chat, do feel free.
All the exercise we do and everything, it will distract for a moment. But then again, back to square one, the stress is not resolving. And sometimes it's not affected personally. It's just the stress is related by others.
Yeah.
If I can come in on that one. Is that okay, Emma?
Yeah, feel free.
Yeah, I think someone in the chat, I'm not sure it's you that said that, but yeah, it's got to be a reminder that it's not, if we do whatever technique that we use, it's not gonna, it's gonna happen. It's gonna relieve that stress for moment or not, but it's gonna take time. It's a constant thing we got to do in our routine. So whichever stress management or technique we use that best suit your lifestyle and how you process things. It's gonna take time to do it, and it's gonna take time for it to actually have a permanent improvement other than a temporary one. Just like everything else, if we're trying to get rid of a bad habit or healthy eating or something, it's something we've got to constantly do, find time to do to actually see that long-term effect. So it will be temporary on the first and second goal. But I think on the second thing you said, the person that's causing you stress is still there.
Yeah.
Was that it? And that we got to look at, because something is to manage how you're feeling now, but you got to see when you're having that reflection, how we can actually, again, what's in our control, not in our control. So it's about how we kind of problem solve as well. So it's different elements of what we got to do other than just like dealing with work stress level. And if someone else that's causing you stress in that space, then then you have the process to seek help. It's someone that you can avoid or not avoid, or is a personal, a work life, something. There's process that you can actually do to support yourself and to take yourself from that situation.
Yeah, but then work you have policy and procedure. Yes, you can get support. But then what happens when it's like for example, my partner, he has alcohol problem, but